Welcome everybody. It is with great pride I get to present the fruits of all the EOH's labour and the result of significant support from our customers. A big thank you to everyone. Without all the support and efforts, this return to profitability would not have been possible. Once again, I can stand here saying this year was significantly better than the previous year. As articulated at the interim period, as a management team, we have been hard at work focusing on establishing an agile business that is efficient from both a cost and a client solutioning perspective. This strategy has borne fruit as the group has been able to weather the terrible local and global political and economic issues. This year, it was not just about efficiencies, but a return to revenue growth post the closing of our legacy issues from the past, following an unparalleled accolade from our Chief Justice in his final state capture report. This was both a humbling moment, but very important moment for EOH and its customers. Clearly, with hindsight now being 2020 vision, the board and management did exactly the right thing. Increased growth margins and tight cost control has led to a 92% increase in operating profit for the year, which would have resulted in an overall reported headline profit but for the increased provision following a lengthy negotiation to deal with legacy issues. More importantly, we converted 100% of this 282 million of operating profit into cash. Megan will show you that our OCO revenue is up 4% year on year, but 17% up half on half. The Zondo report accolade has helped significantly in this regard. Nextech Infrastructure Solutions disappointed as a result of global supply-side constraints and delayed project spend, but the Nextech People business doubled its EBITDA through efficiency gains and also closing out loss-making contracts. Furthermore, we paid down nearly R750 million in debt as we finalized our last major sales. There are still a few smaller sales being finalized, which should bring some extra cash flow in. Megan will also show that if we had paid down our debt and made all our efficiency savings at the beginning of the year, our EBITDA would have been close to 500 million and a profit after tax north of 100 million. This is very exciting going into 2023. From an operational perspective, it was a year of significant progress. We continue to remain absolutely focused on the E for efficiency in our GET strategy. Head office costs are down a further 85 million, with property and other admin costs down 37 million. Megan will deal with the detail in her slides, but we have further admin and head office savings baked in for 2023 as we continue our cleanup of legacy entities and closing out low, no margin business. We will also be going live with our new ERP system in November, which will deliver significant time and cost efficiencies for our teams. A lot of work has been done on our sales and operating structures. We have revised our GTM and OEM strategies. We have restructured infrastructure services into a single entity, all of which are delivering benefits, which Megan will show later. Geographically, we are expanding into East and West Africa on the back of the Viva contract, and we are very excited to be able to start investing in growth, especially in the UK and the Middle East. As I said earlier, 2023 will be an exciting year for us. Growth is the G in our GET strategy and is a really important part of our future as we close the past and focus more externally. The post-Zondo momentum we spoke about earlier this year has continued through the year, with our team securing significant new contract wins and a significant number of new clients being onboarded. Our consolidated go-to-market focus has really borne fruit. We have won some significant contracts with our customers. Our public sector business has started to return as we closed out the legacy issues. We signed 752 million in net new business with the public sector and continue to onboard and meet new clients. In the last year, we onboarded around 36 new customers and convinced 29 to do more business with us after they slowed down in 2019. It has been a monumental team effort. Talent is the T in our GET strategy, and driving this is our employee value proposition. As a services business, people are our main asset, and we have spent significant time improving this. Our EVP is based on the design of a fingerprint in order to respect and acknowledge the unique identity of each of our solvers. Further to this, our focus on new ways of work is around establishing EOH as a best place to work by designing a networked talent ecosystem that is location agnostic. The key pillars driving our EVP are engage, grow, include, and care. From an engage perspective, in our annual people survey, we saw an overall improvement in the areas of performance management, career management, and diversity and inclusion. 88% of our people stating they are proud to work for EOH. In our Grow pillar, we continue with our Rise Up Academy, which was launched in 2021 and allows for continuing e-learning and development. The idea being is no matter who you are, you can reskill yourself based on your passions to create opportunities to grow. We have also launched a drone pilot learnership for disabled people, a first in South Africa, and a specialized digital testing academy. We have extended bursaries for our employees' children and have people on 3 different United Nations Global Compact Accelerator programs. Career moves and career plans are facilitated through our platform, My Next Move. Under our Include pillar, the overall demographics of our company include 49% representation of women, and ARC candidates make up 64% of our overall workforce. We believe that an inclusive environment is an enabled one. We have recently won the award for Women on Boards at the 10th Accenture Annual Gender Mainstreaming Awards, and we're finalists in the Women Empowerment in the Workplace Award. We continue to host roundtables to facilitate conversations on inclusion and belonging. From a wellness perspective, we have progressed our integrated wellness strategy to provide a host of options for our people to cater for their particular needs. Over the financial year, we've had over 6,500 interactions during various wellness sessions. This is a key initiative as people battle with post-COVID stresses. EOH continues to make a huge difference to the lives of less fortunate South Africans. In 2021, we impacted over 10,000 youth through life skills programs, work readiness programs, and ICT programs. Africa Tikkun is our partner in transformative development. They grow, nurture, and establish young lives from cradle to career with sustainable opportunities. The focus is to empower young people. Africa Tikkun is working hard to bridge the gap between the ICT job market and young disadvantaged South Africans by helping them develop their core skills and improve their employability. The Belgium campus and ITversity trains young people to work in the ICT industry and equips them with the necessary soft skills, attitudes, and behaviors to make them work ready. In 2021, 76 students, of which 17 are living with a disability, were financially supported by EOH to study for a Bachelor of Computing degree or a diploma in IT. EOH partnered with Prime Stars in their Step Up to a Green Startup. This is a program which is aimed at inspiring young entrepreneurs to find opportunities in the green economy. These are but a few of our initiatives driving employment in the South African market. As I've always said, EOH is systemic to South Africa as we do make a difference to our clients, our colleagues, and our communities. I will now hand over to Megan for the financial detail.
Thanks, Stephen, and good morning. For the finance part of this presentation, I want to quickly run through the IFRS slides and then go on to unpack how we see the business and how you should be thinking about it going forward, and why a capital raise is so critical to unlock the value in the business. We have come a long way from 3 years ago, and this year marks a turning point with us having closed out our major disposals, and we are now at a point where we can focus on the business of the future. Overall, from an operational perspective, it's important to focus on the continuing results as this represents the go-forward iOCO and Nextec business. A few key highlights of our results. We have seen revenue stabilize at 6 billion from continuing operations and starting to grow. I will unpack this later in the presentation. Overall, for gross margin, we saw improved margins in total from 28% to 29%. And then from our continuing business, it was up at 28% from 26%. Our theme of continuous improvement played out with a 92% improvement in total operating profit at 282 million and a near doubling of operating profit from continuing operations from 55 million to 100 million and an improvement in margin to 2% from 1%. Our cost of interest continued to burden the business and ultimately resulted in us posting a loss for the year from continuing operations of 160 million, albeit an improvement from the prior year loss of 307 million. Overall, we posted a total loss after tax of 18 million. Were it not for us having to increase the provision for the SIU settlement for the Department of Water and Sanitation by 42 million, we would have posted an overall profit after tax. Moving on to our margins and earnings. We have continued to see an improvement in margins over the last 3 years, with total gross profit margins improving from 22% to 29%, and EBITDA margins and total operating margin improving from 0% and negative 12% to 7% and 4% respectively. Total earnings per share has shown significant improvement year on year, from a 10 Rand loss per share to a 15 cents loss per share in the current year. Again, were it not for the increase of 42 million for the provision for the SIU settlement, the group would have made a profit per share. Further, when a right-sized capital structure is considered and the interest cost decreases, this would have further enhanced earnings. From a continuing operations perspective, our margins have all improved from FY21 to FY22, and we have seen a 71% improvement in continuing loss per share. Moving on to iOCO. iOCO is now a well-balanced business with a focused strategy and an end-to-end offering to customers in the ICT space. Overall, gross profit margins remain strong in total in the iOCO business at 30.8%, compared to 26.6% in the prior year, and adjusted EBIT margins increased from 10.4% to 10.9%. Operational technology provides OT solutions to customers in the mining and heavy industry space and posted adjusted EBITDA margins of 19% from 20% in the prior year. Operational technology margins decreased slightly as a result of investment in growth and opportunities to grow the business into Africa and the Middle East. We were awarded the exclusive license for Aviva for East and West Africa during the year, which also bodes well for our growth strategy. We consolidated our infrastructure services as an end-to-end service offering. The infrastructure services offering comprises the managed services and connectivity businesses and the compute platforms business. The establishment of infrastructure services and consolidation of costs has resulted in high adjusted EBITDA margins for the combined business for the year of 6% compared to 4% in the prior year. iOCO Digital is at the heart of 4IR and delivered a solid performance, albeit with a reduction in total revenue as a result of closing out a non-recurring contract, which was partially offset by new business. The business has focused strongly on cost management and productivity and saw a strong improvement in adjusted EBITDA margin to 12% from 8% in the prior year. The enterprise applications and software reseller business saw a reduction in adjusted EBITDA margins. The reduction in adjusted EBITDA margins to 9% from 13% was as a result of OEMs reducing margins to resellers of software and the enterprise application business performing at suboptimal levels. The performance of our enterprise application business is being addressed, and our strategy for OEM software sales is being refined as we look to bring on additional OEMs. We do, however, see margin pressure from OEMs to resellers as a long-term trend. The IOCA platform business houses our knowledge outsource business and early platform businesses. This business saw consistent performance with a slight decrease in margins to 12% from 13%. Our legacy contracts closed out in the current year, with the drag on EBITDA reducing from 22 million to 4 million. Moving on to Nextec. Nextec's focus has remained on achieving quality earnings through de-risking the profile of deals signed and focused offerings to customers. Nextec overall has made progress in this regard, achieving an improvement in gross margin to 25.7% from 23.2% in the prior year, and more importantly, an adjusted EBITDA margin of 1.7% compared with negative EBITDA in the prior year. The Nextec Infrastructure Solutions business continued to struggle and was impacted by contract delays and international supply challenges. However, this was partially offset by the outperformance of projects in the mining industry related to demand for mesh communication networks and the positive momentum in our consulting business. The Infrastructure Solutions business posted a negative adjusted EBITDA of 43 million, with a slight improvement from the prior year. The Nextec People Outsourcing Solutions business performed well, seeing an expansion in adjusted EBITDA margins to 10% from 4% in the prior period, and a more than doubling of EBITDA to 74 million. Moving on to our discontinued operations. We made a profit from discontinued operations of 182 million, of which 135 million related to normalized earnings, predominantly from our disposed IP businesses, and 47 million once-off profit related to the disposal of businesses. Moving to our balance sheet. Our balance sheet has remained relatively stable, and the biggest movements have come from the disposal of businesses, and most significantly in property, plant and equipment of around 150 million reduction. Our net asset value related to assets held for sale was 156 million, of which 130 million relates to Network Solutions, which was subsequently disposed of on 1 September. Our goodwill balances have also remained relatively stable since last year, with our IOCA comprising 456 million, of which 40% is made up of infrastructure services, and Nextec at 218 million, with an even split between the two businesses. From a debt perspective, this past year we have shown significant deleverage with the conclusion of our major asset disposals. Our lenders' debt post-year end is now at 1.2 billion, and we have paid back more than 800 million of debt since FY 2021. During the year, we refinanced our facilities with our lender consortium at the end of March into a 500 million 3-year term loan and a bridge facility, which has 728 million currently outstanding. This has brought significant stability to our capital structure. It has, however, come at a cost, with the bridge facility currently a very expensive format of debt at JIBAR plus 8.4%. This is close to 15% return, and you can see why, from an investor perspective, to do a capital raise makes sense. We believe with a stabilized capital structure, post a rights issue, we should be able to refinance our debt with a single institution and see an improvement in our overall interest rate based on our term loan of around 100 to 200 basis points. Having a single lender would also simplify the current governance and compliance we have with lenders, where we have to get consents from the lenders for a myriad of items, which slows down the business. Our legacy issues remain the overbilling of licenses with the SIU for the Department of Defense and Department of Water Sanitation, of which the DoD has been settled and the DWS is close to finalization. On the PAYE issues, this dates back to 2012 with SARS. We have now instituted high court proceedings to try and get a settlement after trying 6 times to settle with SARS. The remaining onerous provisions relates to the closeout of legacy contracts in Nextec, in Pierce Solar and Autospec. The expected payments show the profile relating to the 342 million and how we see the expected cash outflows over a 4-year period. For financial year 2022, we saw strong cash generation with 87% EBITDA to cash conversion. We generated 283 million of operational cash before legacy once-off costs and finance costs. After the finance and legacy costs, we consumed 80 million of cash. This again demonstrates the business is sustainable from an operational perspective, and it only remains for us to right-size our capital structure. We concluded significant disposals in the current year, bringing in 748 million and repaying 745 million of debt, and ended the year on 458 million of cash, with overdraft facilities of 250 million unutilized. Moving on to the more exciting stuff and how we see our business. Now that we have run through the IFRS results, I want to unpack how we see our business and what it looks like going forward, and why we believe we have a compelling case. Firstly, to unpack revenue and understand the forward view, we have come to the end of our disposals and a clearer picture is emerging on our sustainable and go-forward revenue, being made up of iOCO and Nextec, with iOCO contributing 70% of the revenue. From an overall revenue perspective, when you remove the legacy contract revenue lost and low-margin contracts exited from iOCO, iOCO delivered growth in revenue of 4%, which also shows up in the improvement in gross profit margins. From a Nextec perspective, although we have had a good H1 in the infrastructure solutions space, we experienced a harder H2 as a result of supply chain disruptions and delays in project starts, whilst the Nextec people business delivered a very good performance with a significant improvement in EBITDA and margins. Ultimately, however, we saw a decrease in Nextec revenue as we continue to shape and focus on right-sizing and turning around the Nextec infrastructure business. From an iOCO perspective, once we have stripped out the legacy and low-margin contracts we exited, we saw an overall 4% growth full year on full year, and from an H2 perspective, 17% growth year on year. It has been especially pleasing to see our businesses where we expect to see future growth come through strongly, specifically in our digital and infrastructure services business. We see lots of opportunity in the infrastructure services space as we have 2 separate focus areas, one on the large blue chip customers, and then one for the SME space, where we are developing a platform-type frictionless service offering. Our iOCO digital business also showed great performance and growth. This is really a business that will drive growth going forward, being at the forefront of the 4th Industrial Revolution. Moving on to costs, we have continuously focused on getting the shape of our cost base right and have had various initiatives on this. Property has been one of our biggest costs, and since 2019, we have exited a significant number of buildings, 153 in total. We currently have 26 buildings and expect to have 17 buildings by the end of 2023, and a further 45 million reduction in rent costs. We are close to going live with our ERP system and expect to realize 16 million of savings from system and automation improvements. From a legal entity perspective, we finished the year with 112 legal entities, having started out in 2019 with 272 legal entities. By 2023, we would expect to have around 80 legal entities as we continue to simplify our structure. From a debt perspective, Our interest bill has come down significantly from 2020, when it was over 300 million, to 180 million for 2022. With rising interest rates, this remains a significant cost, with our current cost of debt on our bridge approaching 15%. We have shown in the purple column what the cost of interest for the year would have been had we done all our disposals at the beginning of the year, and then ultimately what a 600 million capital raise would do to the cost of interest. We have assumed close to 100 basis points improvement on the cost of debt relative to our term loan post a rights issue. The decrease in the interest cost also creates a significant unlock from a free cash flow perspective and allows us to reinvest back in the business and unlock our growth path. In the current year, there have been a few non-recurring items that have affected the results, principally increases in provisions for the Department of Water and Sanitation and onerous provisions for a total of 80 million. We also saw specific provisions raised against our lease receivable book of 28 million, which relates to assets in the casino space and is a hangover from COVID. We have then also taken into account our recovered income, which gives us a normalized EBITDA of 423 million. If we then factor in the expected savings for the ERP and leases, we get to a normalized EBITDA of 483 million. If we move on to the loss after tax and factor in the normalizations for EBITDA on the previous slide, and remove the gains on disposal and goodwill impairment, and also remove the total interest cost, we get to a normalized profit of 177 million. If we factor in the capital raise and what level of debt we would have in the business, we incur interest of 65 million, with a profit after tax of 112 million. In summary, taking all the previous slides into consideration, our revenue for FY 2022 would be just under 6 billion, EBITDA at 483 million at an 8% margin, and PAT of 112 million at a 2% margin. And with that, back to Stephen.
Well, you have heard from Megan about the extent of the business turnaround, the efficient levels of cash generation and profitability. Other than capital structure, we solved for almost everything. We are excited about the future and starting this year to invest in growth. We have a 5.5% market share and believe there are still significant organic growth opportunities as we emerge from our past and create cross-sell opportunities with our focused go-to-market team. With 5 main business units now, we believe they all offer a significantly better customer proposition and are inherently more anti-fragile. We are continuing to create IP for ourselves and with our customers as we evolve into more of an as-a-service business over time. To do this, we have focused our OEM partnerships on around 30 key partners and will re-evaluate this each year. The necessity to save EOH developed our COO in a box. We have now created this as a business alongside our people solutions. This relates to attestations, forensics, conflicts of interest, compliance training, learning and development, robust client and partner onboarding, and many others. We already have a few POCs happening with customers. We believed this would be a mid-market offering, but currently seeing more interest from Tier 1 and 2 customers. Furthermore, we have developed CIO in a box for ourselves, given our geographical spread, and are also busy rolling this out to some customers. While these are longer-term initiatives, we believe they are critical changes from just selling people's time and IP. E is for efficiency. If I learned one thing in the last 4 years, there is no time to have an inefficient business. COVID, then strikes, then floods, then a Ukrainian war, lots of black swans, and one needs to always be ready. We have closed most of our low, no margin contracts now. Some of these were to help customers who had no headcount budget but had OPEX budget so we hired and charged a small fee. Crazy, but true. Efficiency improvements will continue to come as we consolidate and refine our business. This job is never done. T is for talent. I've shown how we have turned a disgruntled staff in 2019 to 88% saying they are now proud to be EOHs. This is no mean feat when we could not pay decent bonuses until the 2021 financial year, and again this year. We now have an LTIP ready for approval at the AGM. We have a number of upskilling and career processes digitized and are working to ensure our people can find their sweet spot. I can personally say EOHs have a strong resolve and commitment to their clients. The new employee value proposition has really started making EOH a great place to work, learn and grow. I'm proudly EOH for sure. We need to put the final piece of this puzzle to bed. Sadly, this has become necessary as COVID, riots, floods, and a shocking global economy have slowed our best laid plans. COVID delayed our sales by 2 years, which has affected our capital structure for sure. We will now approach the shareholders to raise up to 600 million rand in a 500 million rights issue and a 100 million strategic BE deal. Lebashe will follow their rights on their circa 14% shareholding and invest a further 100 million to increase our core BE shareholding to around 30% voting rights. The existing A shares will be extended for another 5 years with a potential 3% dilution on conversion. Details of this will be shared in due course. A normalized capital structure will allow us to reduce the interest cost on the remaining debt, save over 15% in interest costs on the paid down amounts, allow cash sweeping of all accounts, reducing negative carry, and free significant management time to focus on external matters like growth. As you saw earlier, we will then have sufficient cash to manage growth and legacy payments. It cannot be underestimated the enormous positivity of normalizing the capital structure for this business and on investor returns. I remind you of Megan's slide showing EOH without legacy issues, and if all the disposals, property closures, cost savings are annualized, as they will be in 2023. EOH would have around 6 billion in continuing revenue, almost 500 million in continuing EBITDA, and over 100 million of profit after tax. We strongly believe we have set a baseline for the core business going forward. Thank you for your time. We'll answer questions now.